This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears, with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for October 17th, 2024. This is season 14, episode number 12, and episode number 451 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Yes, indeed, I am Bob Howard, and thank you very much for joining us here today on the Power Play Post Show. Very excited about the show. We got a great guest. Chris Mott from the Binghamton Black Bears is on the show. There's some interesting stuff that we need to cover about the Binghamton Black Bears. And I had a great conversation, a little bit of a texting back and forth with Coach Brant Sherwood. I think there's still a lot of people thinking about last week. And really in the sense of like, you know, why didn't it feel like the team was syncing up? What's going on there? I know a lot of fans talked about it a little bit. I think the fans were kind of like hung over from the banner raising ceremony, watched a game, maybe didn't really, you know, I don't want to say understand, but didn't really the full effect of like, wait a second here, what did they just see losing 5-3? Now, of course, the Black Bears scored 3 goals in the game. It's not like they were shut out or anything. There was opportunities. They did cash in on them. Maybe they didn't cash on enough of those opportunities. Maybe there were some mistakes that were made. And, you know, we don't want to dwell on all that, but there are going to probably be tweaks in the future for this team to make it a better team. Again, like I said, we have a great guest, Chris Mott. Got to spend a good hour and 10, 15 minutes talking to him, and you guys will hear a good portion of that conversation here on the Power Play Post Show. I'm glad the season's back. I'm glad hockey's back. My New York Rangers are playing well, so I can't complain with that. I believe they're 2-1 now, which is good. So let's get right into it. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show. That is where I do the most of any postings I do about the roster and anything else. So if you really do want to keep up on the latest and greatest of the Power Play Post Show, and of course the Binghamton Black Bears, the team that I am credentialed and cover, that is the place you're going to want to go to look at it. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And again, like I said, on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, one of the rookies, Binghamton Black Bears center Chris Mott, is on the show, and he's obviously battling for that 10th forward, third line position, and so he's working really hard at that. Okay, so let's get into our topics. Dan Stone returns to the Binghamton Black Bears after attending the SPHL's Pensacola Ice Flyers training camp, a great experience for him. Last season, in his first pro season, Stone played 63 games for the Black Bears, including 4 goals and 22 assists in 56 games in the regular season, and a goal and an assist in 7 playoff games. He was the Iron Man player for the Binghamton Black Bears, the only person to play in all 63 games for the Black Bears. Now, of course, this was all kind of like a good experience for him. He also got his P1 visa, which is going to allow him to play here in the United States, being from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Now, of course, that brings up the whole topic of Josh Fletcher as well. Josh still has not had a chance to maybe get a look-see by an SPHL team or an ECHL team, and that might prohibit him from being able to play hockey here in the United States we'll see. We'll keep up on that story and try to give you as much information as we can. But at this point, I wouldn't expect Josh Fletcher. And I know a lot of people are asking about it, and they're kind of confused about visas. We explained that a couple weeks ago here on the Power Play Post Show. Go back and take a listen. But it really comes down to the economic structure of the FPHL does not allow them to be qualified for players that are international to be able to get P1 visas. It's something that is kind of a unique thing for the FPHL, but it's what sometimes the players and the coaches have to deal with. Dakota Bond and Jamie Bussell. This is also kind of big news, and you're hearing this first. I got a permission to talk about this from Coach Sherwood. Dakota Bond and Jamie Bussell are not available this weekend for the Binghamton Black Bears. They will be off this weekend to attend some weddings. This was pre-approved and cleared through head coach Brant Sherwood. So everybody came into this knowing this was going to happen this weekend for Jamie Bussell and Dakota Bond. So that, gives it an opportunity for other people to step into those roles, right? That means that, the rookie defensemen are going to get, that playing time. Obviously, Stone will be there maybe to kind of fill in, Dakota's position, but the other two defensemen are going to get a couple more games, okay? And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. And it's almost like, training camp extended for those two guys, right? So we'll see what happens. Nolan Egbert returns from the SPHL training camp as well. His visit with the Fayetteville Marksmen. Last season, Eggy was 12-5-2 for the Black Bears with a 3.22 goals against average and an .892 save percentage. He was sent back to Binghamton after two of the netminders up in ECHL were sent down to the Marksmen. So Eggy's back. I think we're going to see Eggy in at least one game this weekend. He might be the Friday game, and then Connor coming back and playing the Saturday game. We'll see what happens. Both Christopher Mott and Emery Emerson were signed to 4-game PTO. So Chris Mott, who we just spoke, or who you will hear the interview in just a little bit, Mott played in the home opener on Saturday and registered one shot on goal. Emerson has not gotten into a game yet for the Black Bears. So maybe we'll see this weekend. Obviously, with Dakota and Jamie not being in, that does provide, with Jamie not being in, a potential spot for Emery Emerson and Chris Mott to definitely get into the lineup, which is important. Alexander Giroux was released by the team. Like Emerson, he did not play a game this past week. Now, Scott Ramekers was placed on the 15-day IR on Monday. The injury likely happened during last Friday's game in Watertown as he was scratched on Saturday, which I initially thought was because Coach wanted to see one of the other rookies to get, seeing them get playing time. But apparently it was definitely an injury. Now, I even went up and introduced myself to Scott, said, hey, we'll have you on the Power Play Post Show. Maybe that'll be our guest for next week is Scott Ramekers. Not sure of the status of Nick Stuckless, too, who I was impressed with. Some of what I saw so far, he might be battling an injury as well. Don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. Without going into detail, I spoke with Coach Sherwood on Wednesday about his thoughts on the roster and the performance from last weekend's games. Again, without going into detail, I will say this. As I already said in my reports on the Facebook group and on Sunday's podcast, I was confident he was not happy with the team's performance. And I was correct in that assumption. When I talked to him, it did seem like he wasn't pleased with the performance of the team on Friday and Saturday. Coach Sherwood is looking to make the team better, and that there will always be tweaks to the roster in which he partially filled me in on. Some of that I can't talk about right now. He is always recruiting and looking for the right players that will make this team better and to get better results. Look for a couple signings and roster moves over the next couple days and especially over the next couple weeks. When he started this job a season and a half ago, he started working on and making the organization and culture better. And he still works on that today. So it's not just a one-time thing. He didn't get rid of players before just to do that once. No, this is a thing that's an ongoing thing. One of the things I want to mention is you have to remember this is Coach Sherwood's livelihood. That's very important here. He takes a lot of pride in making sure that the team is playing the best it can. Remember last season is last season. This is a kind of a little bit of a quote he gave me. Last season was last season, and this season's an all-new opportunity for the players and for Coach Sherwood. That's kind of important here, all right? So I just wanted to mention that, we might be seeing stuff in the roster change a little bit here and there. He's got a few guys that he's been talking to that might come in and help this team out, okay? And he wants the team to be even better than it was last year. So that means there's some tweaking that can be done and might be done. So stay tuned for all that. A preview of the Black Bears 2 games this weekend versus the Hudson Valley Venom. Now, we don't really know what kind of team we're going to get from them. They did play a preseason game against the Danbury Hat-Tricks last weekend. Friday, they will play in Newburgh, New York for the first time. Yes, I screwed that up the last time we talked about this. I kept saying that the game on Friday was in Binghamton, but nope, it is on Friday in Newburgh, New York. So it is in the Hudson Valley Arena. The trip is a 2-hour and 15-minute trek for the team, so that's not too bad. Fans can easily travel down there. On Saturday, the two teams will meet in Binghamton at Division Veterans Memorial Arena. So again, just because I screwed this up already, Friday they're in Newburgh, Saturday they're in Binghamton. Hudson Valley is basically last year's Elmira River Sharks, kind of. The team was moved there after the owners of the Hudson Valley Vipers of the APHL, which is America's first senior AAA league, purchased the team from the FPHL, who ran last season's River Sharks and got basically the rights to the players, so to speak. Players' names that you will recognize who have signed a standard contract are Mark Poser, David Gaeta. Mark Poser, he had 4 goals, 11 assists in 49 games with Elmira last year. So he's the guy you're really going to remember. Kind of feisty, kind of a little bit of a gritty player as well. David Gaeta, 24 goals, 22 assists in 48 games with Elmira and Port Huron over the last 2 seasons. So that was his total. He's had about 46 points in the last 2 seasons between Port Huron and Elmira. Eli Bowers played a few games last year for them at goaltending. Austin Pickford, he had 1 goal, 22 assists in 31 games for Elmira last season. Josh Newberg, obviously everybody knows him because he played in Binghamton the first 2 seasons that the Black Bears were here. He is now their head coach. I expect him to be playing, I think, in the home opener for them down there on Friday. MJ Merkel might be behind the bench, maybe, possibly. Brett Parker, people will remember that name from playing here in Binghamton. MJ Merkel, of course, and, of course, Dustin Jessau is also a part of that team. Now, I did pull up. They announced their roster, and let me see if I could pull that up here again. Of course, nothing can ever be easy there with a computer. So they did. They announced their opening night roster. Danila Beloff, Brendan Charlton, Quinn Cheevers, Jesper Eriksson, David Gaeta, as I mentioned, Dustin Jessau, Josh Newberg, Elementis Norica. I probably butchered that. I apologize. Brett Parker, Blake Sewerston, Jesse Swanson is on the team as well. He played a little bit, I believe, last season, maybe 6 games. Rasmus Asp, that's another name people are going to remember. Mateo Di Blasio, who was a Morrisville State player. Austin Pickford, Mark Poser. There's your defense, Jeremy Rotke, and Kodiak White Duck. You remember that name as well. He also is playing for them. Eli Bowers and John Moriarty, both of them combined don't have a lot of playing time in the Fed as professionals. Last season, Moriarty played 5 games with the Baton Rouge Zydeco and was 1-4 with a 5.33 goals against average and an 87% save percentage. Eli Bowers was 2-4 last season with Elmira. He was on the team for a long time. I think dressed like for 17 games. He had a 5.42 goals against average and an 87% save percentage. The rink holds about 1,000 fans in Newburgh, and this will be Josh Newberg's coaching debut, even though I think he's going to be playing. So, and you guys know how I feel about coaches who also play the game. Don't waste your time and the players' time. If you're going to be the head coach, be behind the bench, be watching the game from a different perspective. And I love Newberg. I think Newberg is a good guy. I even think that Brant Sherwood has a lot of respect for Josh Newberg. So that is pretty much, the kind of the preview that we can give you, because they haven't played. I think last week they played against Danbury in a preseason game. They lost the game 4-2. They did get 2 goals in the game. They did play against Taylor Schwann. Congratulations to Taylor for doing such a good job for the Danbury Hat-Tricks in that preseason game. I have a lot of respect for her. I think she's a great athlete. I realize her size might hold her back in the pro game, which is tough. She is a lot shorter, but man, she still fills up that damn net, and she really does a good job in between the pipes. And she did a great job last week. So let's not count her out. Maybe she can get a position somewhere and get some games in, right? I would really hope for that. I think Taylor is a pretty special athlete. And I think more people, I think she's a great inspiration for not just young girls, but also young boys. I hope she eventually goes into coaching or has some sort of position where she can talk to people about her experiences, because I think it's only going to be for the best for the younger generation to hear her story. And maybe we'll have her back on again and talk about her story some more. So, hey, coming up next year on the Power Play Post Show, we've got Chris Mott, rookie center, comes out of Morrisville State. One of the things I want to say is that Nolan and Chris Mott's brother played together on the Junior Islanders. So I think it was the under-16 team. Chris's brother is a couple years older than Chris. I think Nolan's a couple years older than Chris as well, and they played together. So there's a lot of great connections. Of course, Cam Clark and Kate Henry also played with Chris on Morrisville State. I know Kate Henry, people really like that wrister that he's got, so we'll see if we get to see that this weekend as well. But coming up next year on the Power Play Post Show is Chris Mott from the Binghamton Black Bears. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. So I'm very happy to be able to talk to this gentleman. There's a lot of really cool things that we can talk about, kind of links that he has with some of the players here on the Binghamton Black Bears. He is one of their forwards, and we're really glad to have him. He is Chris Mott. Chris, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on.
Hey, Bob. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely. So, Chris, you're from basically Long Island. Tell everyone a little bit about where you are from on Long Island. I know it's probably a little bit more east than where Eggy is on Long Island.
Yeah, the town is called Wisconsin. I'd say it's right around the middle of the island. If anybody has ever been to Long Island and made their way across the LIE and stopped by Jake's 58 Casino, it's right around there. But I'd say I'm about 25 minutes from 25 minutes east of where Eggy is from.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, there's nothing better than when you say, "Hey, get to a casino," and that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So that's always good. When you were a kid growing up, what was it like playing youth hockey on Long Island? Did you spend a lot of time on the island playing hockey? Was there a lot of rinks around where you were? I know Eggy's question, he said he had to travel a little bit, but there were still definitely rinks around there. What was it like for you?
Well, I first started growing up playing, I guess I was pretty fortunate. I had a rink 2 minutes from my house.
Oh, wow. Perfect.
Yeah, I actually had gone to preschool there, and I guess one part of the preschool, if you wanted to, you could have your kids be taught how to skate. And obviously my parents were pretty big hockey fans, so they just kind of were like, yeah, we'll just teach them we'll have them get taught how to skate, and then that was it. But
so preschool, you went to a preschool that taught kids how to skate?
Well, the preschool was in the back of the rink, but
That's
I
awesome.
guess if you wanted to, I guess in addition on to the schooling would be I think it was maybe we'll say it's you skate twice a week. You go out and kind of go out as a group and just kind of get skating lessons. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. I got to be honest with you, that was great. So you were able to obviously learn to skate at that school,
mm-hmm.
and then it just naturally turned into starting to play organized hockey?
Kind of. I mean, I started first playing deck hockey, ball hockey.
Sure.
And then occasionally, every once in a while, I would play they'd have the little intramurals at our local rink. I did that up until I was maybe 9 or 10, and then I also played lacrosse, and then one kid who was on my lacrosse team, he started playing he was playing travel hockey, and their parents were like, oh, you should have Chris come try out for the team. I believe I was going into 4th grade, and then I was like, yeah, I wanted to do it, and then I tried out for the team and made it, and then then never looked back.
Yeah, and I know later on you played for the Junior Islanders, and
mm-hmm.
But you told me you grew up a New York Rangers fan. Was your whole family a New York Rangers fan, or does it vary? I know, as going back to the Eggy conversation I had with him last year, half of his family are Islanders fans, half of his family are Ranger fans. Similar in your household, or was it mostly Rangers?
Everybody on my dad's side, we're all kind of diehard Rangers fans. Everybody, I would say, except my brother. For some reason, when he was younger, he just kind of liked the color red and just fell in love with the Devils.
Really? Oh,
yep.
So your brother is the one random Devils fan in a household on Long Island?
Yeah, basically.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's always one of them, right? Like the black sheep of the family?
Yeah. So, and I think it was really just because he just loved the color red and just kind of took it and ran.
And he's been a Devils fan ever since?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And he's older too, or younger?
Yes, he's 2 years older than me, so he's 27.
And did he play at the time? Did he play when you guys were young as well?
Yeah, he played travel up until he was, I believe, 16,
mm-hmm.
and then he just was he didn't want to do the whole juniors process, so he just played high school hockey his senior year, and then decided to just head up to college, where he went to SUNY Geneseo.
Gotcha. So when did you know that you wanted to seriously play organized hockey? Because it's different for all kids. Some kids know it when they're 5 years old, they're ready to get on the team and everything. When did it start for you?
I'd probably say right around, I'd say 16 I guess that 10th, 11th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Because I played a lot of baseball growing up. I played a little bit of lacrosse too. So again, I tried to be active all season and just kind of change up the sports. And then probably right around 10th grade, I decided that I was just going to stick to hockey, and kind of knew that, like, obviously, like, you know, if something serious, it's going to probably take up a lot more of my time and everything like that. But, and I think I had the most fun playing hockey. I mean, baseball was nice. It was a different change of pace and everything like that. But, I mean, that was more of just a getaway. But I think I was always more serious with playing hockey.
Yeah, and in 2016, 2017, that's where we start to see you played a lot of games that year. Whether it was with the junior, I mean, there was two different teams for the junior Islanders, and then there was Smithtown. That's a lot of hockey for a kid to play at your age.
Yeah. So funny enough, that year. Well, I think the two different teams, I think it was under, one was like our league, which was the USPHL.
Right.
And then the other one was just our total games, like including all tournaments, exhibition games.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, so that, I do remember that year was like a while. We started like before Labor Day weekend, I think. And
Holy
then
cow.
we made it to the USPHL finals. We made it to the USA Nationals, and that wasn't even, I think that was like the beginning of April. So yeah, it was a long year. But
is that hard on a young guy? I mean, you were what, 15, 16 years old at that point, maybe 17?
I was 17, 17, because that was my senior year of high school. I don't think so. I mean, looking back, I guess I never really thought about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're younger, your body's able to do more. But I mean, I don't think so. I never really had any injuries. Everything was pretty good. But yeah, no, I actually never really thought about that. But looking back, no, I don't think it was too difficult. I mean, we had late practices. We practiced like 9 o'clock at night, so that kind of stunk getting up in the morning for school the next day. But everything else, I'd say, was pretty good.
Can you explain to everybody who doesn't know, who maybe hasn't had a kid play in the USPHL, how competitive that league is for kids that are 16, 17, 18 years old?
Yeah, I would say it was very competitive. I mean, at least each team had at least, I'd probably say, 4 or 5 Division I commits. I just remember my second year, well, I guess both years of 18U. One was against South Kent, which is a prep school up in Connecticut. They were just loaded with all Division I commits. And then the following year, the same school, some guys that just were on that team that was Shane Pinto.
Wow.
Zach Jones.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few other defenders. They're all either playing in the AHL or played 4 years plus at Division I levels. So it was always fun playing against those guys. And that's just one of the teams. I mean, a lot of guys all had like really good teams and guys, but I mean, it was pretty competitive.
Yeah, but playing with D1 commit kind of guys also kind of helps you gauge where you are as well athletically, correct?
Yeah, definitely makes you kind of have to turn it up a notch. You're going to be playing against these good guys, and they're coming. They're going to be giving their A game, so you really got to just kind of look at each other as a team and be like, hey, like, we know who we're going up against. Like, we can't think that they're going to take it lightly, because they're not, and we just got to really get in there and just kind of play.
Now, what did you learn about yourself when you played, SPHL hockey, or even, in the next couple of years as you were playing junior hockey as well? How was the differences between, like, say, playing AAA and then getting up to junior A hockey? Because I got to imagine there is definitely an increase in skill and probably even speed as well. As the guys get older, they get a little bit quicker, they get a little bit stronger, they get it's a little bit more physical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you really kind of summed it up all there. The speed jumps, plays jump to like the quicker timing, or like how do I work? Like you have less time to make plays. The plays are crisper.
Mm-hmm.
You're expecting more tape-to-tape passes, and obviously guys are getting stronger, faster, bigger. I think definitely the jump from midgets to 18. From midgets to juniors was a pretty big jump.
Yeah, and I think the decision making, right? It's got to be quicker. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of guys know how to play hockey. A lot of guys know how to talk about hockey. But when you're on the ice and you have to make a decision in like 2.3 seconds, that type of thing, that is probably sometimes the hardest thing for people to understand. Like, when you guys watch Kyle Stefan, right, or Kyle Steffen in practice or in games, he makes decisions quickly. I mean, D1 guys just do that.
Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest difference, I would say, between that D3 and D1 level.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's going to be a little bit faster, but at the same time, it's like everybody's the same age, so how much stronger could they really be? Everybody's 21 to 25. I feel like everyone's kind of in the gym lifting the same amount of weight, but it's more of just one, like, how quickly you're going to make those plays and how much less are you going to mess up those plays.
Yeah.
Because that thought process just kind of just making it a lot quicker.
I have to ask you, are you just going to play hockey in New York State your whole life? Is that between the Junior Islanders and playing for South Shore and Morrisville State and of course the Binghamton Black Bears? Are you just going to stay in New York State? Are you comfortable in New York?
I guess I'm comfortable. Yeah, I mean, was born here, so might as well stay. Well, I did have my 2 years of Massachusetts and Virginia Beach, but I mean, I don't know. I also, maybe I'm a little biased for being from Long Island, but being up here and being back home on Long Island, it's two completely different places in my eyes.
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, sometimes you kind of like, that will take you like, oh wait, yeah, I still am in New York, even though like
it's different.
A lot more.
It's different. Right? Long Island, New York is different than Binghamton, New York, or, I mean, it's like, it's just two different parts of this. It's the same state, but it's definitely different. Have you found, okay, I'm gonna ask this in a way where I put you on the spot a little bit. Have you found good food up here? Is what I'm going to ask, because I know some of the guys from down into the city or even Long Island, sometimes even in New Jersey, they're like, I can't get a good sandwich up here and stuff like that. Have you found good food up here in upstate?
Good food in the way that it kind of you get by. Yes.
It's okay. We understand.
Yeah, it's hard to like. I've just learned to not really compare it.
Fair enough.
After 4 years of being at Morrisville.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I mean, we've got some breakfast places up here. I think the big thing on Long Island, like my favorite thing is just going to a deli and get a nice like sausage, egg, and cheese on a bagel. That's my go-to.
And you haven't found a good one up here yet?
I have. There's a few places that were up in Morrisville. I've yet to find one down in Binghamton.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, actually, I guess one morning we went to Strange Brew.
Okay. Well, okay, yeah.
It was pretty. It was pretty good.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I've yet to find like a place. But yeah, those are. But up in Morrisville, there's like two breakfast places that I like going to. I mean, again, wasn't the same, but did the job.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I had Dan Weber a few weeks ago, go to the Broadway Diner, which is in Enwell. So if you ever get the chance to go to the Broadway, it's a great place. He loves waffles. I mean, he's a big waffle guy, right? So they have a great waffle Sunday breakfast there. He didn't get that because he wanted to make sure that he was okay weight-wise for playing hockey. But
Yeah.
But the Broadway Diner, it's what you think it is. It's a New York-style kind of joint here in the Binghamton area. It's definitely a good place to go check out. So definitely do that. And no, they're not. We're not sponsored by them. It's honestly one of my favorite places to eat breakfast.
Yeah, definitely like to give that a try.
So, how did Morrisville State come by for you? Like, how did you get involved there? Did they find you? Did you find them? How did that happen for you?
Yeah, I believe it was they approached me at a showcase in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I want to say this was my last year of juniors, so I was 20, I believe. Yeah, and like a lot of times at these showcases. Obviously, there's a lot of scouts, so sometimes they'll watch games, and then if they like you, they'll kind of pull you out of the room and just kind of talk to you, introduce themselves, like do the whole 9 yards about the school. But yeah, so I got pulled out of the room, and it was by our old assistant coach, Chris Mott. He's now with, I want to say he's the assistant coach at Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
So he was a great guy. I loved playing for him. He really knew the game well. Like a very meticulous, strategical kind of he was a very systematic coach. But I mean, we also had such a young group of guys that I mean, you kind of need it. But yeah, I love playing for him. So he approached me after a game, and we just kind of were in contact throughout that year. They invited me up. I got to visit the school, got a tour of everything, got to meet our head coach, Kevin Krogel, and then we just kind of kept in contact until I think it was maybe mid-December, where I was kind of okay, I'm ready to kind of ready to commit to a school, and then decided on Morrisville.
Yeah, and obviously you go into that year, COVID happens, kind of wrecks pretty much the freshman year for you and for a lot of players. And I think probably, if we just kind of reflect on that just for a few seconds, if you played in 2021 or went to school, or it was your last year of high school, or it was your last year of college, and it kind of gets wiped away. That's a crazy thing to think about. Have you reflected on that year yet, and what that was like? Because for you as a freshman, you're going in, you're thinking, all right, my first year of college hockey, this is going to be great, and it kind of gets wiped away.
Yeah, that really I mean, even just thinking about when that was to now. 4 years, that it just feels like it's gone in the blink of an eye. I still feel like my freshman year was 2 weeks ago. But that freshman year, I mean, yeah, it definitely sucked. Everybody was super excited. The SUNYAC came out with a shortened season. Everybody was supposed to play, I think, 6 games.
Sure.
And some playoffs. 2 weeks later, they just shut it all down. But, I mean, I will say the one thing, though, I guess I got to experience school as just a regular student that year.
Right.
I didn't have to, deal with the stress of balancing all the classes and practice and missing everything and stuff like that. So I would say for not being in school for 3 years to jumping back in, I think that kind of helped me a little bit get back into the swing of things with school. But it definitely wasn't fun just kind of being around, just with no hockey.
Yeah, but you got to kind of, like you said, almost it's like you take a year off and you got to, be a kid at school, right? And so many athletes don't get to do that because they really do. Like being a student athlete is almost like being a student but having a part-time job that it's like 30 hours a week. There's so much to it and everything, and that's very difficult. So you got to be really a student or a kid in college for one season at least.
Yeah, definitely was able to devote a lot more time to like school and everything like that.
What was college? What was college hockey like for you? What was D3 hockey like for you?
D3 hockey was, I guess, a normal week for us. Would be Monday mornings. We'd have a 6:30 skate, a 6:30 team practice, and then we'd have 2 workout groups, one at 8 a.m., one at 9 a.m. So a lot of guys would just get off the ice, head over to our athlete gym. We'd work out. A lot of guys would then go to class, and then Monday afternoon we'd have like 2 sessions. We'd have a group at, I think, I want to say 1 and 2, which would just be like a skill session.
Sure.
Those were only, I think, 30 or 45 minutes. Tuesdays we would kind of just cover our normal practice at we practiced around 12 or 12:30. Wednesdays we would play games. Our schedule was a little unorthodox compared to all our other SUNYAC teams, because every school had a travel partner.
Sure.
But we didn't. I guess for people listening, travel partner is like each school is paired together. So, for example, Oswego and Cortland are partners, and then Fredonia and Buck State are partners. So, in the same weekend, Buck State would travel, Fredonia would travel. Fredonia would play Oswego Friday night, Buck State would play Cortland Friday night, and then they would switch.
Gotcha.
So then Saturday night, Buck State played Oswego and Fredonia played Cortland. This way, it was just like they were both traveling the same weekend. You got to play 2 different teams, and for the SUNYAC, I think it was required that since you played everybody twice, you needed to play once at their home, and they needed to play once at your home. So since Morrisville was the newest edition, I want to say early 2000s, they were the 9th team. So they used to just play 2 games against the same team every weekend, but my sophomore year they changed it, so we would play Wednesdays and Saturdays, which was kind of a grind. One year we had all our Wednesday games were away, so you're always missing Wednesday classes, and you wouldn't be getting back until late. But yeah, so Wednesdays were games. Thursdays we'd have a lift in the morning, and then a practice. Friday practice, and then Saturday would be another game, and then we would have off on Sundays.
Wow. See, this is stuff that most fans, here in FPHL or just in pro hockey may not know about a D3 school. How did your game change when you went from junior hockey to D3 college hockey?
I think my game kind of stayed pretty similar. I like to view myself as like a 2-way center.
Right.
I've always tried to model my game after like Braden Point and Patrice Bergeron. Those are 2 guys I always love watching play.
Sure. So you want to be as good in your own zone as you are in the offensive zone. Yeah.
Like I was never like this flashy goal scorer or anything like that. But that was always something for me. Like I always felt that even though I may not get a point in a game, that doesn't necessarily mean I didn't play well.
Sure.
I always try and be like doing good on face-off wins, just being being as helpful as I can in the D zone. So I think that kind of was, I guess, an easier transition. I mean, obviously just the skill and speed just kind of was an adjustment. But I think also that extra year we had off with COVID, we were still able to, like, have practices.
And at least work out, right?
Yeah, so I was at least able to skate with all the older guys and kind of get accumulated to the speed. But I think the biggest thing with going into college was you only play 25 games. You have 16 conference games, and that's not a lot at all.
No.
So each one of those games it means a lot. Like, you really can't take off a night. And I think that was just the biggest, like, adjustment, like, learning that. And just kind of, like, learning, like, hey, like, you don't have the option to not play well tonight. Like, you just got to be at 100% and just go out there. I wouldn't say this. I guess the speed was, like, a little bit. I mean, I guess once you really get into it, like, you don't really notice the speed difference.
Sure.
I would say it's just a little more run and gun.
Okay.
But again, I think that kind of ties into how crucial those games are.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're only playing 24, 25 games, you have a lot that you need to accomplish in those games. There's something about SUNYAC D3 schools that are now producing pro players where they never did before. And we're talking about players that are playing in the Fed and playing in the SPHL, and even some of them are now playing in the ECHL. Just from Morrisville, from your senior year, you and I talked about this off air, but I want to read this off for some of the fans because they may not know this. Benjamin Lingbird playing in the SP in Evansville. Jonas Lees played a game last season with the Black Bears, and then a preseason game with Hudson Valley. Cam Clark, obviously. Khaden Henry, obviously. Trevor Grasby from Watertown will play with Watertown. Stevie Jervis played 2 games with Binghamton last season. Mateo Desblasio signed with Hudson Valley for this season. You told me about Trevor Newman. And then Curtis Abbott was in the Utah Grizzlies camp and now heading to the SP with Roanoke. What was it about your senior year, that class, that, hey, a lot of these guys are now going and playing pro hockey, not just in the Fed, but also in the SP, and we're probably going to start seeing more D3 guys even make it to the ECHL. What is it about the program there at Morrisville State that is helping to produce this?
I think everybody just kind of just loves playing hockey, and I think, I guess, kind of seeing everybody else kind of talk about it. Everybody talk about it for 4 years at school together. Like, oh, everybody's goals. Oh, everybody, you want to play pro? Oh, I don't know, maybe not. And I think, like, I guess it's as you get closer to, like, kind of finishing college, you're just also like I think it's like I'm not ready to be done playing.
Yeah.
And I think that in a way, like, we all kind of pushed each other. Like, there were so many of us that, like, we all spent 4 years together. So I think that was a big thing, and kind of seeing, like, everybody maybe kind of wanting to play pro and go on to play pro. I think it just kind of made more guys want to, and just kind of be like, yeah, like, I think that's something I want to do too. And I do think, I know we definitely didn't have a good year last year at school, and I think that was pretty disappointing for all of us. I mean, for such a big senior class, for all those guys that we've been together, it kind of was like shell-shocked a bit. But I mean, I just remember at the end of my season, I was on, like, just so disappointed. I really didn't want, like, anything to do with hockey anymore. I was like, I think I'm just kind of done. But then, like, obviously, like, you settle down, you kind of take a breath and think about it for a bit, and then, like, a couple weeks go by, and you're like, okay, maybe I'm not done playing hockey. And I think at least that's what happened with me. I know obviously like guys like Cam Clark, Trevor Newman, Mateo, Trevor Grasby, they all went on and played
immediately,
like right after the season ended.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously I was a little different. I also was debating about possibly doing a fifth year. So that's why I also didn't want to possibly like risk losing my eligibility.
Right. Explain that to the fans. I think because of the COVID year, that allowed you to do a fifth year?
Yeah, so since you get 4 years of NCAA eligibility,
right?
Even though I was at school for 4 years, I only played hockey for 3 years.
Exactly.
Which gave me 1 more year extra of eligibility. So a lot of people, well, I think this year will be the last year of
that anybody could do that. Now,
yeah,
because you have actually a teammate that was on your team that is going to play his fifth year at a different school, if I remember correctly, when I was looking through it.
Yeah, we actually have 2, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have one, Garrett Boyanowski. He was our goalie. And then Dominic Della Savita. He's at Misericordia, which is a new Division III program down in like the Wilkes-Barre Scranton area.
So let's talk a little bit about camp here with the Black Bears in your first game. What was camp like? Was there a little bit of a holy crap, this is different than college kind of thing? Coach Sherwood is pretty demanding. He knows what he wants out of his players. Were you kind of surprised in the way camp was, or what did you think?
I mean, obviously, I was pretty nervous going into camp. I think that I guess I was expecting a little bit like a different style of camp.
Sure.
From like juniors and stuff. Juniors, it's just all like conditioning and all that stuff. So I was honestly just kind of expecting that, but it was just a lot more kind of like systems and just kind of, just playing hockey.
Yeah.
Which I think, which is pretty good, obviously, and like a lot of guys, just old teammates I've known or people I've known that play pro, it's like, it's up to you to come into shape. Like, you got to be in shape before you get to camp. It's not like something you wait to get to camp to get into shape.
Yeah, you don't spend 2 weeks in camp getting in shape for game one. You come in and so you can learn systems and practice systems and things of that nature. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I spent my entire summer just kind of making sure I was in great shape, and I think I did a pretty good job with just like my physical, like on ice. Like I was skating twice a week over the summer. I was in working out with my personal trainer 4 times, just doing everything I could to make sure I was in the best shape I came, or best shape I would come into camp with.
Now, so. I have to ask you, did you play on any line with Cam Clark or Khaden Henry in college?
I believe I played a little bit with Khaden.
Okay.
Cam and I were both centers. So we didn't really ever play together. I think this past year we were on the same power play.
Okay.
But yeah, just because we were both centers, we never
really got together on the same line. But you and Kate played a little bit together on a line.
Yeah.
Does that help? Does that make you like if Sherwood puts you out there, whether it's in practice or in camp, on a line with Kade, you guys kind of already know each other a little bit. You know your tendencies.
Yeah, I guess I do. I would say I know a little bit of Kate's tendencies from school. Mm-hmm. So just from being around him. I mean, even Cam too. I was just skating with him every day and stuff like that. So you do kind of know where they like to be and what they like to do when they have the puck and all this stuff. So I guess definitely would have some benefits from that.
So what was your first pro game like? Explain that, because it's not your typical first pro game for somebody. Obviously the banner raising ceremony. You went out and I think you skated the first lap by yourself. And warm ups, that is got to be a little bit different.
Yeah, I was actually like extremely nervous, and I think it just had to do with a lot of like just everything around like the night itself. You know, the home opener, the banner raising ceremony. Like the last time these fans got to see these guys was when they won. So yeah, I definitely had some nerves. And I just like with my rookie lap, coming out of that tunnel and just hearing like the announcer and just coming out and just taking that solo lap, that just hearing those fans go crazy was honestly something I've never experienced before in hockey.
I think I asked Cam this as well. Have you played in front of that many fans before in really your hockey career?
No, nothing north of, I think, nothing north of like 2,500.
Gotcha.
I know we played at some pretty nice arenas like Oswego.
Mm-hmm.
We played in their teddy bear toss one year. So they were basically almost sold out. We played in Plattsburgh. They had I think it was Plattsburgh's teddy bear toss game too. So that was another sellout game too. So, I mean, nothing to the extent of almost 5,000 fans.
Yeah.
But usually, every time I've been in front of that many fans, it's also been everybody rooting against me. So now it's definitely kind of like a flip where these are all fans just rooting for you. So.
Now, if you have your choice of seeing a game on the island or seeing a game at MSG, you're going to pick MSG every time, right?
Yeah, 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's good. It's the best answer. Being a Rangers fan and whatnot that you are, and so am I. That is absolutely the right answer. You've seen games in both locations, correct?
I have not seen any games at the new UBS Arena.
Sure, but the old one.
Yeah, I've been to a game at the Barclays Center. And then the Nassau Coliseum, yeah. I've been to a bunch there.
Explain to fans, because I could try to explain it, but the last time I was at the Nassau Coliseum was like, I don't know, 25 years ago or maybe even longer than that. Explain the difference between a game at MSG and, say, at the Barclays Center.
I guess just like at MSG, you're just there with all the history.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really kind of pulls it all into perspective. It's just like, wow, like obviously it's known as the world's most famous arena. And I think that just differs a lot more than like the Barclays Center. I mean, I did not hear any good things about the Barclays Center, especially because it wasn't made for hockey.
No.
And like one section behind the net, there wasn't even any seats and stuff like that. And the Jumbotron wasn't centered. That just wasn't. That
was weird. Fit. Isn't that weird? Yeah. That's just weird. I mean, yeah.
But with the Nassau Coliseum, at least I think, like a lot of my friends that are Islanders fans, like everybody loved that place, you know. And I think, honestly, it's pretty similar to the Visions, where it's like all the fans are just like right on top of you. Yeah. Yeah, and it would get so loud. And I think that's what fans love the most about that place. I mean, I think fans love UBS Arena, but I think if you were to ask them, I mean, if you had to choose between UBS or going back to Nassau Coliseum, I think a lot of them would say go back to the Coliseum.
That's crazy. That's crazy because it's a new arena and people are supposed to love everything that's new. You know, Chris, good luck this weekend. What do you guys know about the Hudson Valley Venom? There's really not much, right? Because they were a team that were in Elmira and then they moved. And there's a lot of player movement. Has Coach even talked about them, or is he just concentrating on your guys' game going into those games, being that you guys haven't played them? And again, it's more of a reconfigured kind of team because they moved from Elmira to Hudson Valley. Is he more concentrated just on your guys' game at this point?
Yeah, this week so far, definitely just been focusing on more of our game. I think we'll tomorrow get into like more of the systems and everything like that. But again, with like the beginning of the season, it's so hard to tell. Like, there's no footage, there's no games to watch of these teams, and especially Hudson Valley being a new team, there's really not much to really kind of go off of. So I think we're probably like kind of going Friday with some stuff, but then after Friday, we're going to go back, look at it all, and make some adjustments going into Saturday, because now we'll kind of understand some of their tendencies, their breakouts, their forechecks.
Awesome. Well, hey, good luck this weekend, and thank you so much for coming on the Power Play Post Show. We really appreciate it, and it's always great to get to know the players, and especially in a way that we do here on the show. And it's just a pleasure to talk to you, especially a Rangers fan. I will take that any day.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a good time. Only been in Binghamton for almost 3 weeks, but it's been great, and I can't wait to get out there this weekend.
Well, I hope you can get some good food soon. I really do. I don't want you to starve up here in Binghamton.
Yeah, hopefully get some. Maybe someone could ship up some pizza from New York City.
Fair enough. He is Chris Mott, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I want to thank Chris Mott for coming on the show. I thought it was a pretty good interview with him. We'll have 6 more questions with Chris Mott coming up on Sunday as we review the games from this past week. We have 6 new questions we have 5 new questions, and 1 question remained the same. So let's go over this real quick. Number 1, who is the greatest influence in your hockey playing career? We'll hear that. Chris Mott will have the first stab at that one. Number 2, name 1 pregame ritual that you have to do before every game. And I agreed with Chris's on this one because I love to do this one. Number 3, vacation destination, beach, camping, or staycation. So there you go. Outside of hockey, what do you like to watch? MLB, NBA, NFL, or MLS, or even the PGA. Number 5, if you were picking a movie, would it be a comedy, a drama, a sci-fi, romantic, or horror? And number 6 stayed the same. A zombie apocalypse has broken out, and you're trapped in a hockey arena. Who is the one person, dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional, that you would like to have in the arena with you? I really liked that question and some of the answers that we got last year, so I kept that one in. So that was pretty cool. All right. Let's get out of here. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lepolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, as well, Binghamton Black Bears Center, Chris Mott. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Remember, Friday night they're in Hudson Valley in Newburgh, New York to play the Venom, and back home on Saturday to play the Binghamton Black Bears at home against the Hudson Valley Venom. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.